to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us today. Get ready to be inspired and motivated to live a high-impact life. Now, here's Rick.
Welcome to the Point of Impact podcast. I'm Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us today. Excited as we continue what we started in our new season a couple weeks ago, talking about setbacks and comebacks. And today's a really important episode because this is really where the shift happens, where you move from the setback and you begin the comeback. It's a really significant shift. I mean, it's the one that many people never get to, and then they never have their comeback. So we're going to jump into that in just a moment, but just want to touch base with you on a few things here. I've been traveling again. I think I told you we started 2 weeks ago back in this new season. Some of the places I'd been in terms of internationally, but also within the country. And then I was just in New York this past weekend. And it's just amazing to go different places and just to see what's happening in people's lives. And some of the things that are happening are just identical. It doesn't matter where you go. And then everyone has their own unique set of challenges and difficulties that they face. But I just want really to use this format here in the podcast to say, you know, I'm a motivational speaker, an inspirational author. It is my goal to encourage, to inspire, to motivate people. That's what God put me on this earth to do. And whether I do that through speaking, through writing, through a podcast, through books, live events, whatever it is, that's what I want to be able to do. Videos. And I just want to mention those because I started those since the last season ended, and I didn't talk about those in these first two episodes of the new season. So I've been doing these Monday Motivation, 2-minute Monday Motivation videos, and they're on Twitter at Rick McDaniel. You can find them on Facebook at Rick McDaniel HIL, which is High Impact Living, the organization that I run. And also on Instagram at Rick McDaniel _official. So Rick McDaniel _official Instagram, Rick McDaniel HIL for Facebook, and just straight Rick McDaniel for Twitter. Every Monday morning you can watch a 2-minute inspirational, motivational video with little story and little thought to get you going for your week. So take advantage of watching those that come out. I filmed one while I was in New York in this like building with inside brick and everything, kind of cool. So filmed some of them. I filmed one when I was in Italy, and then I'll do ones here in the office and other places locally. So you can watch those each and every Monday. Also, if you get on the rickmcdaniel.com mailing list, which you just go to rickmcdaniel.com and just Rick McDaniel mailing list at rickmcdaniel.com. Just sign up, and then you'll get them delivered to you. You'll be able to receive weekly inspiration and motivation. So you want to take advantage of that as well. So those are just some things. Again, I think the website's the best place to go because you can find so much information and almost anything that you'd want to know about, and you can find it all in one place. All right, so you ready for a comeback? Yeah, I'm ready for a comeback. It all hinges on one thing: change. If you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always gotten. Definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing the same way, expecting different results. If you want to come back, you're going to have to change something. Because a setback, if you want the message of a setback, here's the message. Change what you're doing. Change what you're doing. You need to make changes. That's what a setback communicates. So it is vitally important, just crucially important, to get to a place where you understand change. If you've had a setback in your marriage, in your finances, in your health, you've got to change what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to remain, in the setback, and there's not going to be a comeback. I mean, that's just the whole hard, cold reality of the situation. Comebacks happen because of change. Straight up, that's it. Because of change. That's what brings about a comeback. If you want a comeback, it's going to happen because you've made changes. You've made some type of change. Change makes things different. So you have to be willing to change, to do things differently than you've done up to this point. Being ready for a comeback means you are ready to change. That's the best way to see it. I'm ready for a comeback, okay? Then you're ready to change. That's how you have to see it. That's the way you need to talk to yourself and say, I'm ready. Change is tough because we think, I'm going to, lose control in some way, or, we can find it intimidating. We can find it difficult, scary. We can resist it for a whole bunch of reasons. But when you're talking about your life, not somebody else's life, your life, when we're talking about your life, and what you need to do to get out of this setback position and into a comeback, it's going to be about change. And there are 3 aspects to this change that I want to share with you today that are absolutely crucial. The first is a change of mind, or a change in your thinking. A change of mind happens when you receive new information, you gain new knowledge. Now, last week we talked about lessons from the setback, so part of the new knowledge you gained is through the setback. Just let that, sink in there for a moment. Part of the seeds of your comeback are sown in the setback. Once you learn, you look for, and then you learn the lesson. With any new knowledge, there's resistance to changing your mind. And I've seen this, I've been helping people for a long time, and there's a resistance, and it mostly comes down to a fear of the unknown. And the way you overcome fear is to believe, to have belief that change can happen, that it is possible, that it can be done. That's what you have to come to believe in your mind. You have to believe this is possible. It can be different. You can be better. You can do it this time because you know more. You're wiser. You have opened yourself up to principles that will lead to your comeback. A number of years ago, there was a small tribe in South America. The people kept dying prematurely. So scientists were brought in to find out why. And they discovered that the people were getting a specific disease from insects that lived inside the clay adobe walls of their huts. This new information, was a breakthrough information. So what to do with it? One possible solution was they could move to another place where the insects didn't live. Then they wouldn't get the disease and they wouldn't die prematurely. Another possibility was to tear down their existing huts and rebuild them using an insecticide in the clay that would repel the insects so they wouldn't get into the walls of their huts. Thus, the huts wouldn't make people sick and they wouldn't die of disease. Those are your 2 options. Now, of course, there was a third option, remain the same and keep dying prematurely. I don't know that that's really an option, but okay. Now, of these 3, which one would you opt for? You may say, well, I don't know whether I just move somewhere else or just tear down the hut and rebuild. But the third option is not really an option because things just stay the same. The South American tribe chose to do nothing. They decided to stay where they lived and live in the same huts they lived in. Now you can look and say, oh boy, these people, they're just not, they're just not wise. They just lack education. They're just living in this backward kind of situation. But before, we come down too hard and judge the poor, uneducated tribesmen in another land, we might want to ask ourselves, what are we refusing to change? What information do you need beyond the setback that you've already had that would say to you, I need to change my mind. I need to change my thinking. I need to get more knowledge and gain more knowledge so that I don't have another heart attack, so that I don't have another marriage fall apart, so that I don't end up in debt and financial problems, bankruptcy, ruin again. I need to gain knowledge, and I'm open. My mind is open to the possibility that if I could gain more knowledge, if I could gain more information and be open to what that information would tell me about a healthier lifestyle, about budgeting, about listening and communication and forgiveness and all those other relationship principles that I've done other episodes on, if I would do that, then I could get out of this setback and I could have a marvelous comeback in my life. So a change of mind, change in your thinking. All right, second change of heart, which really means a change of attitude. Attitude, if you were to define it, means a way or a mode of thinking. Your attitude is going to change. You're going to see things from a different perspective. Because when you see things from a different perspective, you begin to have a different attitude about yourself, about others, about God. You have a change of heart. It's amazing how you can move from a setback to a comeback when you change your attitude. Some people have never had a setback, and they should have. And the reason is they refused to change their attitude. A negative attitude will never lead to a comeback. Never. It doesn't happen. You may know the name Lee Child because he's become extremely well known for his Jack Reacher series of books. But you may not know that he started out in motion pictures and television. 15 years he worked in a family-owned company. But then the company was purchased by a larger company, and guess what? They got rid of him. He lost his job at 39 years old, almost 40 years old. He didn't have a job. But he looked at this big setback and he said, now I can do what I really want to do, which is to write novels. He had to figure out a way to support himself while he wrote. That took him getting a different kind of a job. His daughter even started having a part-time job. But that kind of attitude led to his comeback. And listen, you talk about a comeback. I mean, the guy is like a mega best-selling author making way more money than he ever made before in the job that he thought was such a great job, and looked like his whole career was over. You can have a career comeback. You have to have a change of attitude about it. And what's really, of course, funny is that he writes all these books, and now these books were turned into two movies with Tom Cruise, and now Amazon has a whole Reacher, which he's the executive producer of, by the way, a whole new series, Reacher. And I've watched all of them. I love them. It's sort of stuff I like anyway. So you can lose your job, but if you have an attitude, then the right attitude about it, then you're just going to look for a new opportunity and it's going to happen. Setbacks, sure, they involve anger and hurt and sometimes betrayal. But if you're going to get out of the setback and into the comeback, it's going to be about your attitude, how you look at it, how you are willing to open yourself up to new possibilities, new opportunities, new experiences. If your attitude doesn't change, you don't have a change of heart, then it doesn't happen. It just won't happen. It's absolutely crucial to have a change of attitude. Here's another story, just because this is just another great story, especially in the realm of career and your job. Mitch Albom tells this story about this guy, Tom Smallwood, got laid off right before Christmas from his General Motors job, married, had a daughter, young daughter, and he looked at this setback and said, what I really want to do is pursue a career of being a professional bowler. Just like, what? But he actually started bowling every single day and entered the Pro Bowlers Association tour trials, 9 games a day for 5 days. And when he was all done, he had qualified for a tour exemption. So a guaranteed spot and a minimum paycheck at every PBA event for the year. Tom looked at his loss of his job, the setback, and had the attitude of, I'm going to use this to pursue my dream. And just to make the story even better, just 1 year after he lost his job at GM, he was competing in the PBA World Championships in Wichita, Kansas. He made it all the way to the finals, and he was up against the reigning PBA Player of the Year, and the match came down to the final frame, and Tom threw a strike, and he got a strike, and he won in that one tournament more money than he ever made in 1 year at his old job. Incredible comeback, fantastic comeback, willingness to change, to have a better attitude, and to explore new opportunities. So those stories of Lee Child and Tom Smallwood, man, they're true stories. They happen to two people. And so when you have a change of attitude about your setback and about what it can lead to in the comeback, it's amazing what can happen. So there's a third change, and that's a change of commitment. You change your future through commitment. You choose to be committed to your comeback. Everybody wants a comeback, sure. The difference between people who have setbacks and then comebacks and people who have setbacks and no comebacks is, are they going to be committed to the comeback? You're ready for your comeback when you commit to the change that you need to make. Not you want to change, not when you think you should change, not when you talk about changing, but when you commit to change. That's when it happens. There's a phrase I've used quite a bit and quoted many times. Here it is. Successful people are simply ordinary people who make commitments others are unwilling to make. Successful people are just ordinary people who make commitments that others are unwilling to make. Time and time again, if you look at the people who have a comeback, you look at the people who make their dreams come true, you look at the people who have fantastic success, you'll see time and time again a willingness to commit. Commit. When you make commitment, when you make commitments, your future changes for the better. It's just that Flat out simple. And you just think about commitment and what in life really that's worth having can you have without commitment. You want a lifelong spouse, you have to commit to marriage. You want to own a home, you have to commit to a mortgage. You want to have a healthy body and live free of sickness and disease, you've got to commit to a healthy diet and exercise. And you can just go right down the list of things that life will ask of you to make a commitment, to sign something, to say something, to do something in order to receive the benefit or the reward that comes from the commitment. To have a comeback, you must be committed to your comeback. You must believe that you will have a comeback. You must have a positive attitude that says, I'm going to have a comeback, and you have to stay committed to the process, however long that process may take. And the reality is that it may take longer than you want. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but John Wooden, the famous coach of UCLA, won more national championships, basketball, college championships than anyone else, did not win his first national title until his 16th season at UCLA. 15 years without any titles, and then he reeled off a bunch of them in a row. Starbucks didn't reach store number 5 until 13 years into its existence. I mean, how many Starbucks are there now? Thousands, tens of thousands. Took 13 years to get to number 5. Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, didn't open his second store until 7 years after starting his company. Took him 7 years to get store number 2. And again, as you know, there are Walmarts all over the place. So there it is. You know, it may take time, but if you'll stay committed to the comeback, if you stay committed to it, it'll happen. It will happen. You can change your future, but it will require a willingness to commit. There's no other way around it. It will require a willingness on your part to do what has to be done, to make the changes you need to make in your life. You have to be willing to do that. No one can do that for you. So we go back, because really, if you look at it this way, you know, it's like you have a change of mind. You change your thinking through knowledge. You have a change of heart, and you change that through a positive, hopeful, faith-filled attitude, and you change your future through the commitment that you make. The commitment that you make to the comeback. You say, yeah, I'm going to be someone who makes the comeback. I'm going to have a comeback. Others may stay in the setback, but I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm going to be one of the people that actually has the comeback. It's possible for you. It's a great story I read a while back about this cat named Clyde that lived in Tasmania, which is an island off the coast of Australia. And when he was about 1 year old, he went missing. 3 years later, a veterinarian in Cloncurry, which is in the Australian outback, contacted his family and said that he had found Clyde. Now, from Tasmania to Cloncurry is about 2,400 miles. And of those 2,400 miles, 185 are over the Bass Strait. And then it's like another 1,000 plus miles into the middle of the outback in Australia. Clyde had one of those microchips implanted, which is how the vet knew to contact the family. A nurse had found Clyde hanging around her hospital and had taken him in as a pet. So that's how he got to be taken in by somebody and cared for. And then she was going to go on a trip. And so she left Clyde with her vet. And that's when the vet found the microchip. Through that microchip, they were able to discover that the cat actually belonged to the Sullivan family who lived in Hobart, Tasmania. Clyde the cat had made this 2,400-mile journey all the way into the middle of the outback, and then he made a 2,400-mile comeback to be reunited with his family. The little girl in the family said it's so special to have him back. He seems as if he was never gone. He doesn't seem to be surprised by what has happened. Well, the rest of us are. I mean, how does a cat end up 2,400 miles away from home, including traveling over 185 miles of ocean, of sea, and then become reunited with his family? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know that anyone will have the answer to that question, but this is what I do know. If a cat can have a comeback, you can have a comeback too. You can have a comeback. You do not have to stay in this setback situation that you are in, whether it's your career or it's your health or it's your relationship or it's your finances or it's your spiritual life. Or maybe you once had a relationship with God through Jesus and then you kind of wandered away or slid away. You can come back. There are comebacks available in all those areas of life. But a change will be required. It just won't happen. You just can't sit around and say, well, I can't wait for my comeback. That's not how it works. There has to be this shift. If you're ready for your comeback, then there has to be a mindset that says, I'm gonna make a shift. I'm gonna change. I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna pivot from the setback. I'm gonna pivot into the comeback position. Doesn't mean that the comeback will happen, but it means that the comeback position, you're now in that comeback position. That change of your thinking with new knowledge, as you've gained new knowledge and new information, that change of your heart, where your attitude changes. You get rid of all the negativity and you welcome into your life this belief, this optimism, this faith, belief that the comeback is possible, that just like those stories you've heard today, that your life could actually be better after the setback, happier, more successful, more peaceful, more meaningful, that could happen. And then you make that change where you just commit to it. And you say, I'm going to see this through. Coach Wooden didn't just start winning the moment he showed up. It took 15 years of hard work. Starbucks didn't just blow up overnight. 13 years to get to store number 5. It didn't take 13 years to get to store number 10. I can tell you that. Because that's what happens, man, when you got on, and we're going to talk about this in the upcoming episodes. When you get on a comeback, you start getting momentum, things really start to happen. And there's a way to get momentum and there's a way to continue it and build on it. But you've got to commit to it and see it through. And if you will do that, make the pivot today out of setback. And just say to yourself, I'm pivoting today out of setback into comeback. I'm opening myself up for the change that needs to happen in my life, in my mind, in my heart, and how that is going to change my commitment. You'll be on your way. And next week, we'll start getting into some of the components and go from there into some of the specific steps that you can take to launch yourself into a marvelous comeback. Have a great week.
You've been listening to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us for our next episode.